بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream, where I have three noble guests with us today. Two of them are Tullab Ilm, seekers of knowledge, that have come from, one has come from the Oregon Trail, and the other one has come from right outside of Boston, Mass. So welcome to the stream, and they'll be staying here for the Arabic intensive. Could you please push that light slightly away from me? Yeah, because I hate the white light. I despise it. No, you're good. And then we have, what's your official title? Can you, Edif, please turn your mic and his mic on? What's your official title that you go by?
I'm some executive director of CAIR Action.
Executive director of CAIR Action. So mostly EDs of CAIR are per state, right? So this is a national division.
This is a different organization. So there's CAIR, the 501c3 civil rights and advocacy organization that protects the legal rights of the community. This is the political wing.
The political wing.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're nationwide. You're not limited to any state. So you're from California, but now you're here. That's why, because you're national. That's great. And if it's going to start us off on the dua of Wednesday, we're going to start with Salat al-Taj. And you know, Waqas, what we should do? If this recited well, you should take it, fix it up, audio, and then put the words across with the translation and the transliteration. A lot of work. Poor Waqas out of England. Maybe he has assistance by now, but whenever you have Arabic, you have translation, then you have transliteration. It's like a headache. Now, here's the way I do it. When you're reading transliteration, the academia will have diacriticals and italics, right? The common man doesn't need this. So the way I do it in our dhikr book is the transliteration isn't not italic. And the only thing that matters is the hamza versus the ayn, the apostrophe. Hamza and ayn. That's the only thing that matters. And I don't do dashes over the A's, dashes over the I's, dots under the sad, dot under the thought. No need for this. Because you would have to be a specialist to learn the system first. So forget that. Just keep it simple. You know who else does that? Sheikh Nur Hamim Keller. Right? He doesn't play these games. Right? He just puts it straight. And then I differentiate it not by italics and normal text, what they call like Roman text, but I do it by by color. So the Arabic and the transliteration will be one color. Then you just pick another color for the English translation. That way it's easier. Because when you have italics, it's already hard to read. Italics is not good for the digital form because a person's got, it's just hard to read. So if this is recited well, then he takes it, puts it in some cathedral, right? You know how they make it sound like you're in a cathedral, and then make a video out of it and maybe put some pictures of Medina in the background, right? So that people could have Salat al-Taj and play it all the time. Because this is there's a lot of things that are blessed. And Allah Ta'ala has not limited his blessings. So a regular person could do something, write a dua, write a salawat, author a book. It's full of barakah. You know, like Risalat ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani in Maliki fiqh, it's not even one of the main sources that, in the sense that the final say is in it. It's not the case at all. In most of the commentaries, they'll tell you, no, actually, this isn't the final say. What madhab are you studying? Shafi? Hanbali? So, by the way, Sheikh John Starling is coming here tomorrow. He's running the show tomorrow, the program tomorrow. So you'll see him tomorrow. He's a Hanbali. You should learn from him. But Salat al-Taj is one of them. And people get this idea, like Risalat ibn Abi Zayd is literally read for blessings. People say, like, when we read it, we get guided. Even if there's certain things in it are actually not what the Maliki madhab says. There's a number of things. If you study only Risalat ibn Abi Zayd, then you graduate onto other books, you realize, oh, some of the things are not even what's supposed to be, what's in the madhab. But in any event, We don't believe that Allah limits blessings. He blesses a lot of things outside of his own book, which is the Quran and the Hadith and the Athar Masnoona, the things that are Masnoon from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how does that logically sit? Because these are the works of humans. No, but they're in obedience to divine command. That's why Allah blesses them. So that other people can see, oh, if we follow a divine command, right, then we get access to blessing. And that's exactly what this salah is. So let's put it on the screen, ya alifu, and we'll recite it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد صاحب التاج والمعراج والبراق والعلم دافع البلاء والوباء والقحط والمرض والألم اسمه مكتوب مرفوع مشفوع منقوش في اللوح والقلم سيد العرب والعجم جسمه مقدس معطر مطهر منور في البيت والحرم شمس الضحى بدر الدجى صدر العلا نور الهدى كهف الورى مصباح الظلم جميل الشيم شفيع الأمم صاحب الجود والكرم والله عاصمه وجبريل خادمه والبراق مركبه والمعراج سفره وسدرة المنتهى مقامه وقاب قوسين مطلبه والمطلب مقصوده والمقصود موجوده سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين أنيس الغريبين رحمة للعالمين راحة العاشقين مراد المشتاقين شمس العارفين سراج السالكين مصباح المقربين محب الفقراء والغرباء والمساكين سيد الثقلين نبي الحرمين إمام القبلتين وسيلتنا في الدارين صاحب قاب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين والمغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولى الثقلين أبي القاسم محمد بن عبد الله نور من نور الله يا أيها المشتاقون بنور جماله صلوا عليه وآله وأصحابه وسلموا تسليما. If when you put up the surah of the masjid, and we'll take our 2 minutes of dua. Allah forgive us all of our sins and grant every one of us what we're seeking. We'll do 2 minutes of silent dua. Bismillah. Allahu barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. All right, let's turn to our guest. Tell us exactly what happened yesterday in the New Jersey primary for District 12. You're in the political field, so give us the analysis.
Alhamdulillah. It was a major victory for the entire movement, for the pro-justice movement nationally. We had folks from all around the country coming in, into New Jersey 12 to ensure that this victory takes place, and not just take place, but by such a wide margin.
Mhm.
He's up over 10,000 votes.
He cremated
in
the opposition
in a very crowded field. And I think it just sent a strong message that you can win. You can stand for justice. You can stand for Palestinian human rights. You can speak out against genocide, and not just win, but win big. So I think this is going to resonate around the country. And it's not just this win, but we saw with Analilia Mejia, and she also won another
Patterson?
congressional district here in New Jersey.
Patterson, right?
It is north from here, and so she also pulls off a victory. And at her forum, when they were speaking at a masjid, in a candidates forum, people asked who believes what's happening in Gaza is a genocide, and she was the only one that raised her hand. That picture goes viral. She was, I think, at that time maybe third or fourth place. She comes in and wins. And then there was another forum in New Jersey, I think maybe a week later. The same question was asked. Every single person raised their hand. So people are recognizing that this is a litmus test. Yes, it is a litmus test to see where these candidates stand on the issues of justice. If you can't stand for human rights, for the people of Palestine, then you know what? They're not going to get the support.
And can you pull up what I just sent you on live stream? And let's watch the speech, the victory, whatever this was that one of my friends sent over. I said to him, tell me what to show on the stream. So he's got a 2-minute speech or video. So let's see, and let's watch this. This is Dr. Adam Hamawy, who, believe it or not, I've known him since I've been 12 years old, right? 11, 12 years old. And I remember they used to tell us he memorized Surah al-Baqarah in college. That was like it is a big deal, right? And we used to be like, what? He memorized it? Like we didn't come from a community of people who memorize Quran all the time. It's a crazy idea for us. Like we're young people, we're like, what? And he was a great example. And he was one of the guys who was maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8 years older than all of us. So we actually looked up to him as one of the first, of that generation, of the second generation people to be around. And you always need that. You need to see people older than you, because you need to see where we're going in life. Like, so even for myself, when I look at what the guys 10 years older than me are doing when I was in my 20s, 30s, it continues. It actually never ends, believe it or not. So when you're 9 years old and you see someone who's like 15, you say, okay, that's what high school life is like. And you have to see a bunch. Okay, I don't want to be like this guy. I don't want to be like this guy. I want to be like this guy. And you become friends with them. And so on and so forth. And that's why it's a big deal for us to mix up ages, that the ages should always be mixed. And that's one of the things we try to emphasize on purpose in this community. When we do stuff like go out for whatever reason, we never hesitate to bring a kid or to bring someone older. We should mix up the ages, because you get to see. Now, looking at, they call it the sandwich generation, when you have kids and you have elders, you're taking care of both. But when you see what old age is like, it's like, all right, that's where I'm headed. How do I want to be old? Some people, they're old in a way you don't want to be. Other people are old in an amazing way. And you realize certain investments that they made in their youth that weren't so attractive are really paying off. And people who saved money and people who exercised and ate right, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, you see the fruits of it. And their older age is way better than other people who squandered. All right, anyway, let's get to the video. Alifu. Click it.
I've spent my entire life working with my hands. I'm Dr. Adam Hamawy, and I'm a surgeon. My family came to the United States for a shot at a better life. New Jersey shaped these hands. I went to elementary school in our district, grew up in Old Bridge, Rutgers, New Brunswick for college, medical school in Newark, and MBA in Camden. I joined the National Guard to give back. On September 11th, my hands treated the wounded and the first responders in New York. These hands worked in Iraq, in Baghdad with the U.S. Army, treating American soldiers, Allied troops, civilians. Years later, these same hands worked in Gaza. I treated children pulled from rubble, people who survived the bombings only to face weeks of wounds, infections, and reconstruction. This is the part most people never see, after the headlines. Someone has to put bodies back together, by hand. I've done that work in Central America, Africa, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. And I do it here in New Jersey. What I see every day is this. Hospitals can't staff emergency rooms. Doctors are blocked by insurance companies and bureaucracy. We're told we can't afford healthcare, and yet there's always money for bombs. I know the cost of war and occupation far too well. For years, I went to Washington to tell my representatives what I saw. Now, I'm stepping up to do what I can to fix it. My name is Adam Hamawy. Politics was never my plan, but I've lived these struggles hands-on. So I'm running for Congress to fight for health care, for our veterans, for all of us here at home, and to put humanity first. I've gotten my hands dirty my whole life. Now, I'm ready to do it again.
All right, so that was the promo. Now let's go to the victory speech from yesterday. Did you help craft this?
No.
I guess it was clever, the whole hands theme, right? Because surgeons, that's their life. It's their hands. All right, Edif is pulling up the next one. Or as Joe Rogan says, Jamie, pull that up. We say, yeah, the guy behind him. Yeah. Hey, Jamie, stop your video. It's crazy. Pull that up. No, we got Elifu. Okay. Volume.
And may God bless the United States of America. When we organize, Takbir!
You know, the Amy Meck and those people are literally getting Islam derangement syndrome. She's going nuts because they're saying takbir, which is, here's the thing. I feel like political opponents, people in general, the more further from their imagination something is, the more they literally sabotage themselves by focusing in on it. So it happened with Obama. It was such a crazy idea to have a black man for president that people couldn't stop talking about it, even the enemies. And that just gave him more and more energy. And his followers were like, look what they're doing to our guy. And then you had, it happen again with Trump. Oh, it's outlandish, the idea that Trump is president. But they kept saying that just kept giving him more energy and more opponents. It happened again with Mamdani. How could you have a Muslim mayor of New York? And that when they went that route, they gave him all the energy and attention. And he brilliantly, I would say, doubled down on it. I'm looking at the campaign. I'm not looking at the policies. Because obviously they're opposites. Obama, Trump, Mamdani, they're all opposites, right? So then you go to Mamdani, psychologically speaking, they're going for you against you as a Muslim. What does he do? He gives them the biggest piece of insane ammunition possible with a visual. He gives them the visual of him eating with his hands, right? To me, people are like, is he crazy? No, but that's actually fed right into their narrative, gave them a visual that they could put all over, and our people like New York Post can't help. They have to put it on. It's just so crazy in their eyes, right? But then for his actual constituents whose votes he needs, half of their grandparents ate like that. Some of them still eat like that. So psychologically, people get this, they fall so easily into the psychological trap of when you have a message that's so provocative or an image that's so provocative, you can't help but pay attention to it. If you're a media outlet, it would be like malpractice to not cover it. You have to cover it, wall-to-wall coverage. And that's what wins you. P.T. Barnum, when he couldn't get traction, you guys know who P.T. Barnum is? So P.T. Barnum is the first circus guy. Maybe not the first, but the only successful one in the way back in the day, 20s and 30s. I think even before that even. So he was the one. He would get like people who had odd bodies and people who could do weird things. It's like a freak show, basically, what we would call. But I think it was like abuse of those poor people. But anyway, and some of it was legit acrobats and stuff like that. So his shows weren't making money. They weren't selling out. So he asked the newspapers to write about it. They refused, right? So when the newspaper said, this is disgusting, right? You got like, they get a woman that has a lot of facial hair or a man that's like obese. By the way, the people who used to use the guy would be like normal today. That's how obese we are today. But he'd get all these weirdos, and the people in polite society didn't like this, right? Like, we don't want this. So he couldn't get the newspapers to write about it. So guess what he started doing? He started writing anonymous letters to the newspapers demanding the politicians shut down P.T. Barnum Circus. And he'd get all the people to write it in different handwriting in their own words. And so, tell them why. Tell them he's taking advantage of this disgusting looking person, blah, 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 blah. And now it's controversy. Now it's juicy. Now he got everyone against him. And by doing that now, right, everyone starts coming to see, we got to see what it's all about, right? In Islam, Islamic history, Abu Lahab was the fool, the dummy who fell into this trap. And he would go around telling everyone, do not listen to Muhammad, you fool. Everyone wants to listen to the Prophet. Now, Abu Jahl, he was the clever one. Okay. Revelation came about Abu Lahab would throw this bum in the fire. It's stupid, him and his wife. But Abu Jahl, okay, Surah Al-Qalam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has far more grave verses about him because Abu Jahl was smarter, but he used his brain for deviance. He said, essentially, when Muhammad is reciting the Quran, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he's preaching, don't say anything. Just go and get your best storytellers to tell the most provocative stories next to him. So he's on one area, just go a few feet away and tell a more amazing story, colorful story. That worked. That's what worked. And that's why Surah Al-Qalam, okay, Allah, he threatens him and wailed to him for doing that because he's way smarter than Abu Lahab, who was a dummy. So the same thing with when I first saw Adam Hamawy's speech and he said takbir, I'm like, whoa, it's like suicide. What are you doing? Right? I wouldn't even think to do that. I say, wait a second. The progressives don't care about that. His base does not care. But the right is literally going to get Islamic arrangements. And Amy Meck foaming at the, she's nuts anyway, foaming at the mouth, writing a long thing with panicking and everything. Okay. That's exactly what you want. You want your enemies to go a little crazy. And Allah says in the Quran, لِيَغِيظَ بِهِمُ الْكُفَّارِ. When your enemy is getting emotional, he makes bad decisions. Trump also put his people, he did the same tactic where what is it that drives my opponent crazy? I'm going to double down on it. I'm going to do 10 times more of that, right? Because they're just, all they do is talk about you and how we can't be president. He can't be president. He can't be president. Now, psychologically, you're driving all the energy to him, all the attention to him. And that means you're not driving attention to your candidate. All right, so tell me about this healthcare stuff. Healthcare is not the most provocative and awesome subject matter, but it does actually matter. So give us in tweetable form in 60 seconds, what exactly, how can we rein these insurance companies in?
Medicare for all. I mean, his platform was very clear. Healthcare not bombs, so resonated with folks. And folks are going out there paying, $1,000. They have insurance and they're still getting billed. And folks that don't have insurance are, life of debt. And so just simple. You just said Medicare for all. And that's and it's resonating with the working class. you know. And in this area, you had also folks at upper middle class as well, and just the healthcare not bombs slogan really went a long way. For it's like, yeah, wait a minute, like we have issues in our healthcare system here, and we're sending billions of dollars overseas, killing women and children. Yeah, that's this slogan. It makes sense, and they supported him on that.
You're going to have to therefore take that money from another budget. Yeah, it's got to come out of the what we have now $1 trillion. We passed $1 trillion military budget. It's got to come from there, right?
Yeah, and look, more members of Congress that win in this cycle that are going to push against these defense budgets, and this new defense budget that's adding a new relationship with Israel, cementing and joining aspects of the U.S. military with the Israeli military. The more members that get elected in this cycle that can push back against this, that can speak out against this before they even get into office, just know that, hey, there's a wave coming, and Americans are fed up. Americans on the left and the right are fed up with all this money going to Israel in our name and carrying out a genocide, and now we see what's happening in Lebanon and what's happening in the West Bank, and so it's really Gaza has woken up the American people. We see the polling, we see the majority on both sides now that are saying this is unacceptable, not in our name. So this is a winning. It's a winning platform for candidates now.
When you look at, let's say, 2024 onwards, what's the record in terms of Congress only, not Senate, not President, just Congress? What's the record for AIPAC candidates? Is it a losing record? I know, and I would say take Massey out of it because they went crazy with Massey. But beyond that, what's the record? Does anyone keep score?
People keep score.
AIPAC candidates.
Yeah. So, but I mean, before 2024, they used to boast 100% of our endorsed candidates have won, right? And many cycles,
said that, yeah,
in many cycles. But 2024 was the break. Where you had major races around the country, and the American Muslim community was heavily involved in those races. You had Derek Tran running against Congresswoman Michelle Steele. That was about a $50 million race. So someone, was one of the most expensive races in history, and she was defeated by 654 votes.
Barely
654 votes, and what's exciting about that is it gave our community a story, because a lot of folks in the community say, "Well, my vote doesn't count." What's my vote going to do? And so many folks don't vote. But when you start hearing stories of, at all levels, local, state, and federal, folks winning by 100 votes, 1,000 votes, they're like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe my vote does make a difference. And now there's a narrative when people hear about the Derek Tran race or Angela Alsobrooks in Maryland, where AIPAC was defeated in the primary and the general election. And then the Muslim community there felt empowered because they went all out for Angela Alsobrooks, who came out and supported blocking the bombs, right? So the more of these victories, the more I would say the community is going to get more politically engaged, and also the key is endorsements, right? You never had a national body, at a major level where they're doing hundreds of thousands of endorsements at all levels, right? We were doing that in California for 20 years, and then after the genocide, we decided to take it national. And it's a lot of work, right? You're sending out questionnaires to candidates, you're researching, you're vetting, you're talking to local leaders to see what's the relationship with these elected officials. So there's many criteria before you deciding who to endorse. Also, are they a viable candidate? A lot of times before, someone comes to the masjid and says, "Salam alaikum," and then, oh, this is our friend. That's it. That's it. And then all of a sudden, the genocide takes place, and they're like, "Hey, Mayor, can you come out with a ceasefire resolution?" Oh, I can't do that. So wait, Mayor, we've been supporting you for all these years. It's a simple ask. We want to just, we want ceasefire. We just want, stop the killing of women and children in Gaza. Oh, I can't touch that. So people realize that the Salam Alaikum candidate is no longer enough. Or many of our community members over the years, took a lot of pictures of that. They would host them at their homes and never ask for anything in return. Never discuss policy.
No, we didn't even negotiate anything with the guy. And we're going to give him our endorsement just because he was nice. And
we were an ATM. The American Muslim community for a long time was just an ATM, just supporting candidates who they thought, okay, you know what, they like our community. They come around, they visit the mosques. But that changed after 2024 because you saw there was the red line, and you saw folks who stood with you and folks that
Well, we had a guy here, congressman here, who up in Passaic for
Pascrell,
years,
Congressman Pascrell.
for years, Pascrell was with
Yeah.
the Palestinians.
Yeah.
Imam Qatanani was very involved with them.
Yeah.
Lost like 20 members in Gaza. The guy doesn't even send him a text message. Condolence. The whole world is giving him condolences. But I mean, they realized like, what the heck? This guy was like not even an ally at the whole time.
So unfortunately, you have that. And like, 2024 really just, it showed our community who our true allies were. When it got difficult and AIPAC started threatening folks and, going after folks, we saw who were the brave elected officials who stood for justice, who really, they knew the consequences, but they still came out publicly and stood out. You had Ro Khanna, you had members of Congress all around the country that actually came out. There was actually members of Congress that won because of AIPAC.
Yeah.
And then one of them in the Northwest, she came out with she wrote a piece on this. She said that actually after going to the Holocaust Museum, and that influenced her to come out and speak out against what's happening in Gaza. It was a very powerful moment that when folks see what's happening, it's going to backfire. Their strategy has been backfiring, and people now are fed up with the pro-genocide lobby.
Well, the thing is that now this is maybe not in your wheelhouse, but and you shouldn't comment on this or anything, but stuff is happening in 4K in front of our face and they lie about what's happening. Why should I believe now what happened before there were ever cameras invented? Or like barely have any footage and nobody was there. Eyewitnesses. Okay. Or you were the only eyewitnesses. Sorry. That's what I should say. Why should I believe that? Right? Think about that. Like, that's why we should start questioning everything now. Once you realize that the guy is a liar, you have to question everything. So, but back to the subject matter, it's 435 Congress people. How many of them are in AIPAC's pocket and how many are, we could say, anti-AIPAC?
Fortunately, the majority.
Yeah.
Aside from, a small number, you saw a good test of this was to see the ceasefire resolution. Who signed on to the ceasefire resolution, right?
How many?
Well, I think, was it 50 at one point?
Tell me about are you allowed to comment on, like, someone like AOC people were in love with, but all of a sudden she does an about face?
I think she's playing a balancing act because she, might be running for president. And so she's trying to balance the relationship with the establishment.
But don't people realize that people want the person who's bold enough to go against the grain, not someone who, wants to appease and be in the middle?
I think with folks like Ro Khanna, you're seeing them push others, even AOC, to be more bold now and not to be afraid and to speak out. And look, she, to be fair to her, she has, spoken out on, on these issues, on the genocide. But I think more like Ro Khanna, the Rashida Tlaibs, and the folks that are, like now Dr. Adam Hamawy, you're going to see more elected officials come out and be more bold. And I think it's just going to create a tidal wave of others just say, hey, you know what?
Isn't Rashida out? No. Is she out?
No.
Who's out? One of the three is out.
Well, Cori Bush was out. She lost in 2024 against Wellesley, who AIPAC put in, gave him over $12 million. And then Jamal Bowman. But Jamal Bowman, it was a difficult race because of redistricting. And so they were trying to send a message. Look, they were trying to send a message that year, and they were going after Black members of Congress, right? They went after Bowman,
I know Dave Chappelle talked
Summer
about
Lee,
that.
and Summer Lee. I mean, they were gonna. AIPAC was about to pump in, I think, like $6 million. We heard they were going to pump in like $6 million the week before the election, but they saw the writing on the wall and they didn't want to take a loss back then because they still wanted 100% of our endorsed candidates. But she pulled it off, and it was because of our community too. Because you look at the folks that work with her and the organizers on the ground. It was the Muslim community, and also here, Dr. Adam Hamawy, the Muslim community came through. We're talking about the leaders of the mosque and their personal capacities. The New Jersey, a Muslim Civic Coalition, CAIR Action, all these different organizations that all came together to turn out the Muslim vote. And it was beautiful to see that the Mejia leaders, the Imams, everyone, they made this was a big test for the community.
Yeah.
And I believe that the turnout of our community is probably the highest ever. And then also, once we get the election day data, we're going to see who voted in 2022, 2024, 2026 primary elections, and to see how much were we able to increase that by. If we increased it tremendously, then yes, then our community will see that our community made a huge difference in this. But look, they had shuttles at mosques taking people to the polls.
That's legal.
Yeah, because they're not. They weren't saying. They're not endorsing. They're saying, hey, anyone who wants to go to the polls, we have shuttles outside, take you to the polls. So get out the vote. 501c3 compliant work is instrumental turning out our community.
Well, we got 4 masajid in this area that all know each other. They're all friends. They blur within each other. They're all blurred within each other. It's unlike churches that are sort of set and you only go to one. So the masjid life is different. You go to any of them, but you mainly go 80% of the time to your the one closest to you. And all these people pretty much have similar politics on this subject. There were only 2 schools of thought. There was the majority school of thought is you have to choose you're going to get representation anyway. So you need to choose what is best for you. If not best, then least damaging to you. And the other school of thought had issue with the Iraq War veteran part. Okay. And they said, I'm not going to go for someone who went that way. But that was, I think, a minority position. The practical thing is, and also, by the way, you have to say some people could make decisions and not know that this is going to result in them being forced to go to war. Not to go to war, even to support as a doctor, but nonetheless.
But he has a fascinating story about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about that, because maybe there's some piece of information we don't know about.
So when he was in high school, he was an orphan. His father passed away when he was young.
Yeah, I went to the funeral.
And then folks said, "Hey, do ROTC. You can get scholarships and all that." And he does that. And then they're like, they're going to pay for med school, and he's an orphan who he's not going to be able to afford med school. Doesn't want to get into interests and all that. And then all of a sudden you have, because he went the ROTC route, goes into the military, they cover his medical expenses, medical school. And then he becomes a combat surgeon, a medical surgeon who saves everyone's lives. Anyone that comes to him, he saves their lives. Now, and so that's the route that he took at that age, and he saved a lot of people's lives, including Senator Tammy Duckworth, who came out very strongly in support of him. Iraqi civilians. I mean, this is a person that went to Gaza 3 times, went to Sudan, went to Syria, just going around the world helping save people's lives. And so, it's easy to judge folks, and they just we don't know. As I learned more about his story and the decisions that that he made,
and you could point out that this was before 9/11. Going into the ROTC before 9/11, not in a lot of people's minds that the next wave of wars is all going to be in the Islamic world. So, so those were 2 schools of thought amongst people. But I would say the second, there was predominantly the pragmatic one, which was you're getting representation anyway. You want Brad Cohen to be your representative, right? Who lives here in East Brunswick, who's a hardcore Zionist. Is that who you want? So that's the pragmatist approach. And politics to me is all pragmatism. It's just, there could be good options. And most of the time it's just the lesser of 2 harms option is sometimes a good option. And I have, I think Hisham will do, or Adam will do a lot of good things. So I don't even call him the lesser of 2 evils. I think he's gonna do a lot of good things. But the other point is that, did you see in Philly that they got a candidate, AIPAC got a candidate to say that the genocide is the new N-word? Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah. And Chris Rabb was able to win.
Yeah.
So
she lost.
Yeah. And Chris Rabb, also the community went all out to ensure that victory, and he won by a wide margin as well.
Is there footage of the North Jersey woman?
Yes.
What's her name?
Analilia Mejia.
Analilia
Mejia.
Analilia is one word. Mejia.
Yeah.
Is this Arabic? And
this was at the masjid. This was a forum. This was a community forum, a CAIR New Jersey, CAIR Action New Jersey. The Muslim community came together and did a candidates forum at the masjid, and was just a clear, easy question.
Not victory video. Get the Israel video or whatever.
Maybe I don't know. Good look
Israel genocide video.
And Ryan Grimm from Dropside News said that picture.
That's it.
It went viral. It went viral. Like she wasn't even the front runner.
She wasn't the front runner. She was going to lose pretty much. But here, maybe that's one. No, the first one. Let's try that one. Yeah. You know what the Yahud are going to have to do is they're going to have to render Congress impotent. Once they start losing candidates, the only thing is to pull the rug under all Congress, make them powerless. By only power to have like local, influence. It's going to be hard to do, but that's what they're going to have to do. All right, let's see this one, Yadifu.
Unexpected twist. AIPAC may have inadvertently helped Analilia Mejia win last week, even though she described Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide. A super PAC linked to AIPAC spent at least $2.3 million targeting her opponent, former Congressman Tom Malinowski, who's described himself as pro-Israel, but also said he would be open to placing some conditions on U.S. aid to Israel.
It's either people power or money power. And in this instance, what we focused on was how to connect with people, how to engage across the district and talk about the outsized power that big money has. So by the time that AIPAC is making its big money spend, we had spent some serious time talking to voters about how that kind of action would end up corrupting our political system, our policymaking system. And I think it worked. From day one, I rejected the
Skip. You know, whenever someone talks policy, I guess I'm me when it comes to politics. The moment they start talking policy, something goes off right here. I want to hear like the clips, the juicy stuff. There was this forum in front of everybody. Everybody said something like, no, it's not a genocide. And she was like, yeah, it's a genocide. Where is that clip? Who has that clip? Yeah, you look on the, don't look in YouTube, the establishment websites. Look in the junky, trashy sites. They got all the good clips there. Log in. I'll go into the search bar there.
I think it proves what you said earlier. It's being bold.
Hit media. Being bold. Yeah, people, that's what they... And the thing is that the majority of East Coast, West Coast, I would say, is the Global South. People who come from backgrounds that don't want to get pushed around anymore by these establishments. And even the rural America doesn't want all their money going to Israel. All right, we can't really find it, but let's go on to Q&A right now. We didn't do any Q&A, but today we're going to do a Q&A with our guest. Let's target questions related to our guest. Do you have any official website or anything?
Yeah, CAIRaction.org.
Go to CAIRaction.org, Edifu. And
social media, all the handles are CAIR Action. There's CAIR Action NJ as well for here in New Jersey.
All right, let's take some, I'm going to take this question, which is actually from texts. We're on the live stream now, but I'm going to take this text question. Can you provide me some insight on the battles the Prophet ﷺ partook in and how to quote unquote argue on behalf of his just nature in this context? Okay. All right. So there seems to be a snuck premise or a hidden premise or an unspoken premise here that battles contradict justice, or there's some kind of conflict between mercy, justice, and waging war. And we would say that's actually the exact opposite. Sometimes mercy and justice is only achieved by waging war. Is anybody going to say, for example, ask a boomer, that generation, would you just leave the Nazis alone? Should we just let them take Poland and take the next country and take Austria and take the next country and take the next country and kill 270,000 Jews? You're going to let them do that? You got to stop them. So you need war. Or you're going to ask today, you're going to allow Israel to just run a genocide in front of everybody on TV? You're going to stop them? They don't deserve to be stopped. So what happens if someone has an ideology too that is destructive to humanity? And you know it's destructive to humanity. Wouldn't you need to go into that nation and remove that ideology? At least from the military, at least from the top, not from the people per se, person by person. And what happens when you have a people calling for you to come and free them? You know, the Christians of Egypt were actually asking the Muslims to come in once they learned that the Muslim tax, and Jerusalem too, or Palestine too, the Muslim taxation rules were different, were less than the Heraclius. Heraclius was going broke. So he was actually taxing the people too much. And there were people like anybody else. I don't know, you're a different religion, whatever, but we're getting taxed too much. These guys taking too much of our money. What are you going to tax us? They would say, we don't believe in anything except jizya, which is very little. Whenever the right says, oh, you guys charge the jizya. Bro, you as a citizen of the United States get scammed way more than jizya. You would pray for jizya. You would love jizya. Seriously. If we came in with jizya, you would be thanking us because it's pennies in comparison. Helifo. Go up to online jizya calculator. Does anyone have this web? Let's make the website for fun. Jizya calculator. Based on the dollar today, how much jizya are you paying? Okay. All right. So that's the answer. I'm sorry it's long-winded because I'm texting this person. But that's the answer to your question, because sometimes war is the best thing. Right? Well, if Satan came and had a nation, what are we going to do with it? Make peace? Have a conference? Have tolerance? Or are we going to wage war on the guy? You have to wage war. How much is jizya today? 40 dirhams times 2.97 grams of gold, or 108.8 grams of silver. Let's just say 3 and 120. Let's break it even. Round up the jizya. Okay, I guess we maybe have to round down because we can't take more than we're allowed to. All right, so what's the final cost? At a spot price of roughly $85 per gram of gold, the annual jizya is $1,445 a year. Are you kidding? Hey, charge me jizya instead of Uncle Sam's jizya. Seriously, American jizya is like 40% of your income at some point. The middle is screwed. If you're poor, you get tax back. If you're really well off, you have the ability to put money in trusts. But there's a middle where you're getting there, but they're taking too much. They're just taking so much. Right. So amazingly, according to this Elif, did I read it right? Scroll up. Based on the current dollar estimate. Okay. Elif, could you go and Google, put in the search bar, jizyacalculator.com.
Is this a site?
It's gonna be. When I buy it, go to GoDaddy and see how much, and put it on the screen. Let everyone see. Go on GoDaddy and see how much is the website, jizyacalculator.com. And then all we have to do is go into Claude or whatever and say, create a whatever widget that measures the dollar to gold to this formula. It's just a formula. It's a mathematical formula. And by the second, it gives you you know how there's a debt calculator? Okay. Because that way, anybody who goes, oh, you guys are bigots. You charge the Christians jizya. I say, yes, we did. And you should be thanking me. And I wish I would be charged with jizya instead of your taxation laws, which are insane. This is amazing. Jizya calculator is up for 1 cent. Where's my wallet? We have to buy it. It would make no sense not to buy it for 1 cent. And are you logged into my GoDaddy? Because my card's there. Of course, all the websites we got are on GoDaddy. Okay. All right. I'm buying it. JizyaCalculator.com, so that people say, oh, the jizya. It's what, $1,400. You spend more on coffee. Maybe we should make a coffee company called that, right? Jizya Coffee. That change the branding, get the psychology to be a bit different. Are you done basically with CAIR ED because of this? We might kill the brother's political career. All right, let's go to any questions you have for Basim. What is more important, economic power or political power?
Political power. I mean, look, the community has had economic power, has had tremendous wealth. You know, we see it with the growing community and the large mosque. But you see, you know, the anti-Sharia caucus was, I don't know, 65 members now. And so, you know, I go around the country seeing all these, you know, schools and masajid. But it's like, yes, CAIR will defend you know, your legal rights, and if you're trying to expand a measure and they try to stop you, you know, the attorneys will step in and help. Or if you're trying to buy a cemetery and they're trying to prevent the Muslims from getting a cemetery, we're seeing these challenges. And CAIR, you know, the 501c3 does step up and support. But why even go through those battles when if you had political power, you'd be respected? And we're just asked to be treated like everyone else, right? And so political power is what's going to cement us staying in this country and living with religious freedom.
Also, we should actually start to look at how are we benefiting the country? Like, we have values and beliefs that could help everybody. Gambling, alcohol. Why shouldn't we imagine ourselves, in a sense, we could save a lot of families with our beliefs? And somebody once said, well, you Muslims yourselves suffer from these things. Okay, that doesn't mean that everyone is, number one, and it doesn't mean that we still don't speak about it for everybody, right? These things are vices, and all your grandparents, every American's grandparents and great-grandparents believed these were vices, right, that harm societies and families. What do you think about that idea that we can be a positive? Why do we just have to worry about our rights? Why don't we worry about transforming everybody else and saving them from these vices?
You know, when it comes to standing up for justice and for liberty, freedom, you know, freedom of speech and freedom of religion, I think that, you know, the American Muslim community and the organizations that are on the front lines of this issue they're fighting for everyone, right? They're working with their allies, you know, from different communities, fighting for the soul of this country.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you just had a candidate in, I forgot what, Arkansas, going in front of a mosque and videotaping and attacking, spitting at the mosque, and, you know, and people, the majority of Americans don't want, you know, don't want to see that. They don't want to see minorities getting attacked and scapegoated for the problems. And we knew that this was going to increase with the genocide in Gaza. I mean, it was in their playbook, increase Islamophobia. And then, you know, but a lot of Americans said, hey, we're not buying it anymore. Because when they saw, you know, since 9/11, the amount of money that was spent to foment Islamophobia, it's all trackable, right? It's all, you know, CAIR's Islamophobia report. I recommend everyone check it out. Just Google CAIR Islamophobia. You'll see, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in the first report that were by foundations to foment Islamophobia. Because it was interesting, after 9/11, you had this uptick in hate crimes, but not in employment discrimination. But then, like a decade later, you saw like a huge spike because they were spreading Islamophobia. They had these, you know, Walid Shoebat and these fraudsters going around the country to churches and synagogues and training law enforcement, spreading lies. And, you know, yes, eventually a lot of these speakers were found out that they were frauds. They were, you know, making money off.
Who are some of the examples of that?
Walid Shoebat, and then the other one was the head of Liberty University, Falwell's University. He claimed that he was a Turkish Muslim steeped in jihad, and
they were liars.
Oh, they were liars, and then they got caught, and folks were writing to Liberty University and writing to, you know, the churches and the synagogue.
FBI was pissed off because they had sponsored one of those guys, right? And it turned out the guy was lying the whole time. He said, I was taken by Hamas and blah blah blah.
So yeah, you know, it's an industry that, you know, folks use it to make money, spread their hate, but it's you know, yes, and it did hurt us, right? You saw a spike in employment discrimination, and then eventually that started coming down as people start, with the Muslim ban, people felt sympathetic towards the Muslim community, people rallying at the airports. And so when you attack a community, other communities kind of step up. And we saw with the genocide, you saw what was going on in New York with the Jewish community, with the young Jewish community that, were out in the streets protesting, doing civil disobedience for Gaza. And so, they're uniting a lot of different folks with their hate and their campaigns against our community.
They are. They don't know what they're doing. They're screwing up because they're having a derangement syndrome. Yeah. And if pull up AmericanPrioritieSPAC.com. And I want to ask, you mentioned something recently. You said that there's a whole generation grew up after 9/11 with more of a secular lens. Muslims talking about with a secular lens that is essentially a left-leaning or very left lens, and that anyone speaking from a Quranic perspective was foreign to them. Okay, and I've had a lot of people tell me this too. They say, "Oh, you're not reaching that group," but I'm saying, like, there's only one perspective to talk with, and that's got to be fixed. And I think actually that's come to an end. That was maybe from 2000, my assessment, 2000 to 2020. A lot of young people who grew up in that time, they had a very left-leaning lens. Anything even from the Quran, from the Sharia, that opposed that, they had like a cringe to their own religion. Some of them memorize Quran, go to the masjid all the time, but they don't realize they have this lens over them. And anyone who speaks with the straight Quranic perspective, they can't handle it. But I think that's now changing. And one of the examples that I'll never forget, this example, was a sister in hijab arguing for sex workers, for the rights of sex workers. So essentially what it is literally they took the entire package of a secular agenda and absorbed it. Okay. And that would be wrong whether it was left or right. It's not like I'm saying that is wrong to do for the left, let's do it for the right. It'd be wrong either way. But that kind of dissonance, I think that yesterday at the event, some of the brothers were saying they prayed Maghrib Salah. It didn't have that kind of slant. And eventually people are coming around to realize how absurd that is. But not only that, I'm saying, why don't we flip it now? Be a force to actually liberate people from what is harmful to them. Just because somebody doesn't know something's harmful to them doesn't mean it's not harmful to them. Right? So if a child keeps eating Skittles and saying, this is a great life is good, I love my parents, let me eat Skittles. I mean, the grandparents got to step in and say, stop, you can't do this, even if you think it's good for you. So there has to be a way. Obviously you're not going to put it in the language of the Quran because that's not the public language, but it is extremely harmful for people to be addicted to substances, to expose yourselves to STDs, to destroy your families. All these things are destructive. So eventually, if Muslims are in politics, it's got to become, what do you bring into the table? So how close do you think we are to seeing that turn?
I think a lot of elected officials or folks involved in politics, I mean, many of them are rooted in the traditions. There's some folks that are not, but many are rooted in the tradition, and that's what drives them. Love of justice, love of serving humanity, and they also felt comfortable. Yes, there's some challenges, but they felt comfortable also in this space. Like, going to a convention and praying, and a lot of these places they'll actually have a prayer room, or a meditation room and make it for Muslims to participate and feel comfortable.
What about participating in the actual substantive matters? Like, praying is one thing, it doesn't affect anybody. Go meditate and bow and do yoga all you want, but in the policies, that's what really matters. And people always say, we can't bring our beliefs to the table. Well, what is everyone else doing? Right? Everyone's bringing their beliefs to the table, right? The people advocating for sex work and these types of things, rights of sex workers, is that not a belief? That's a belief. Believing that's okay and good, and that they should get rights and protections. That's a belief. Everyone bringing a belief to the table, right? So continue. I'd cut you off, but the question is like,
on policy positions, I mean, in California, and other parts of the country as well, they've been very involved in the platform committees, the resolution committees of the party, and authoring resolutions, pushing it, mobilizing, allies to get these voted through. So you are seeing folks become much more sophisticated, understand how the political system works, and also the political parties and how to have influence within the political parties. And so the more folks that get engaged at a local level, with their in their counties and the state parties, and then for example, the Democratic Party, the DNC, the more folks that get engaged in these, they can have a bigger impact on the resolutions on the platforms. And I think in California, we kind of, Texas as well. Texas, some of the activists there have had a big impact, been driving policy and getting resolutions passed by their state parties. We need to see more of that.
Yeah.
We need to see more of that, where people are putting their values there in these resolutions.
Exactly, because there's too much of, well, the right hates us, so we need the left. Okay, fine. I don't not disagree with in principle that one, let's shift over, Adiful, is better than is less. One is welcoming, the other is completely against you. I'll accept your premise, right? But don't you have a will of your own? Has this platform been the same for the last 50 years? Or has it evolved? Why has it evolved? Because people join the platform and say, let's add this to the soup. Let's add this, let's remove this from the soup. Okay. Or from the salad. Don't you have your own willpower to add something to this? Right? Why are you an imma that is saying, okay, they won't accept us, we're accepted here. Okay, and we have to just toe this line. You don't have to toe any line. You have a will of your own. Right? So you gotta contribute something good.
You can choose what issues you want to work on. I mean, I think a lot of the folks in this space, they're comfortable with certain issues, right? Certain justice issues, and some of them expand to everyone, right? Saying against hate crimes, right? I think the community has been clear that they won't tolerate hate crimes against anyone, any minority, any group out there. So I think folks are focusing on specific issues, and they want to make a difference in those issues. And I think that's what makes it easier to participate in the political sphere. We can't tackle every issue, and we can't, and nor should we be involved in every single issue. But most justice issues, you've seen the community get more involved. And also, what's interesting is if you look back in the 60s and the 70s, especially out of Egypt, a lot of the scholars there, they addressed issues of the left, and they did show that, what does Islam say about these issues, right? Whether at that time there's Marxism, socialism, and communism. And so the scholars at that time weren't afraid to take on these issues and address it from our perspective. And I think we need that sophistication. We need that level of sophistication where folks are looking at the tradition and how it addresses these issues and how it can be rooted in the tradition.
Well, I'll look at it from a practical angle. And if you got two options, that's what you got to work with. And you have a third option, which is do nothing at all. Which one is the most likely to get you some benefits, right, in this world? But also not just that, like, how can you be of benefit to the world? We got to switch our mind. Instead of Muslim rights, the Quran never came down and told us, worry about yourselves, worry about yourselves, worry about yourselves. This is the way of other religious, tribal identity culture people, identity politics. The Quran comes and tells us, وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That which benefits people lasts in the earth. You are the best of nations to come out to the people, commanding right and forbidding wrong. We're not a religion that's about ourselves or a tribe or an identity. So the question isn't what's less harmful to us or what's best for us. The question is, through which of these can we do the best? And that's the concept idea that you got to be a force, like you said. You got to bring your own beliefs forward. You just never know. There's so many people might actually want this message and this mix, this combination, which doesn't fit either mold. And none of these molds existed 30 years ago. They're always changing. I mean, the right was different 30 years ago. The left was different 30 years ago. So why are we now hesitant to say, this is what we stand for? It's what we believe in, right? And my lens And part of pragmatism is I got to avoid conflict with the creator. That's the first line of pragmatism for a Muslim. And entering into politics or not, whatever fields we are in, that's the number one concern that we have. I'm not entering into war with my creator because we're pragmatists. And that's a number one reality. There is a creator. I'm answerable to him. Right. Secondly, I'm in the political zone. Now, what can I do within those boundaries? So if we'll open up and share the screen on American priorities, this is the Muslim. Is it Muslim based?
Yes.
Predominantly Muslim based PAC?
Pro-Palestinian, Muslim based.
Super PAC. American Priorities is a federal independent expenditure only committee. We engage in issue advocacy and independent communications related to federal elections. American Priorities operates independently, does not coordinate. One of the people who are behind this, I think he's behind it. He said, we need to start changing the language. Why are we always using other people's language? Say social justice, for example. No, what about we have divine justice? Because we're not hiding away from the reality that we have two lenses. I think you mentioned this just earlier. There are two lenses. The first lens is I'm in line with my creator. I have to be in line with two orbits here. The creator is number one. The world is number two. It's not the world is number one and the creator is number two. And again, when people say, oh, it's a secular country, you can't come enforce your laws. I'm not enforcing my laws. I'm enforcing them on myself. I'm not enforcing on anyone else. But what I do personally, just as anybody else, progressive, libertarian, right wing, center wing, whatever wing, he has his own beliefs first that he has to be consistent with. Then he goes out to the world, right? And he operates within the realm of the rules of that world that he's in. That's what a pragmatist does. A pragmatist doesn't say, well, none of these rules suit me, so I'm just boycotting the whole operation. A lot of people do that, right? They're just forget the whole thing. I don't want to live. So I asked the question, brother, the world is existing with or without you, right? I think you got to be pragmatic and live with the world that's given, but without contradicting your personal beliefs. So a Muslim is no different. Whether or not his personal beliefs come from himself, he invented them from himself, they're based on his desires, or they're based on his Lord. In the world, it's the same thing, right? So a person's coming into the political scene with beliefs that he concocted in his head. Another beliefs that another secular author impressed him with. Another with his own whims and desires. Okay. So, and nobody says to those people, not cancel all of those beliefs of yours, right? So what difference is, where I get my beliefs from is irrelevant to you, but these are my beliefs. These are my positions. All right, go ahead. Tell us about this American Priorities.
It's a super PAC, and as you know, super PACs can raise unlimited money and spend unlimited money.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an effort, that, you know, to go to the air, to take the message to the air.
What do you mean the air? Airwaves?
Airwaves,
Okay.
TV ads, digital mailers. We're getting out the message for pro-justice candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they were critical in many of these key races, including Dr. Adam Hamawy. And so this is, you know, and this is just the beginning, I think, for American Priorities. They're doing amazing work. A lot of folks are paying attention to them. So they kind of take on, you know, the digital and the airwaves. And then you have other super PACs like the Unity and Justice Fund, which does field, which is on the ground, you know.
Like placards?
You know, knocking on doors, phone banking, you know, and texting, you know, different communities. So in this race, the Unity and Justice Fund did over 138,000 text messages, over 128,000 phone calls, not just to the Muslim community, Muslims, BIPOC, Black, Latino, also target the Asian Pacific Islander community, and then younger voters under the age of 35,
Mm-hmm.
to get them to get out to vote. And I think this combination of American Priorities in the air, and then you have Unity and Justice Fund on the ground, is a combination that's going to win a lot of races. And so I think the community has come of age, is trying to realize the importance of super PACs.
Yeah.
And these two, you know, these two organizations are stepping up to the plate to deliver victories.
How many victories has American priorities had, and it says here that Hannah Fertig is the leader of this operation, right? She's the head strategist for this operation.
I think one of them. I know they have,
okay.
they have a team. They have a pretty amazing team, and Hannah is an amazing leader. Was with Justice Democrats and many important organizations. Has a lot of experience, and so they have an amazing team that's helping deliver.
But it's all commercials. That's their target.
Yes, and digital and some mailers and yeah. But it's needed. I mean, this is a space. It's a space that we weren't really in. We weren't spending. The community wasn't spending money on the airwaves, and some of these races. This is it helps.
It helps.
So with a combination of field and airwaves, it makes a huge difference. And so the community's trying to realize that it's not just donating directly to the candidate. You got to support the super PACs that have much more flexibility to do the targeting of different communities out there. And so, and they don't even, and they're not targeting the Muslim community, right?
One of the things my perspective on the local campaign was that, and this is why I think I mentioned already the 3 standout campaigns in the last few years: Obama, Trump, and Mamdani. One of the things that they did is, I think they understood what actually matters, which is, can you get people to get off their seats, off their couches, and walk to or drive to a polling station for you? That's all the thing that matters. One of the things these 3 guys did was they got people to move. They got people in the habit of actually physically moving. Obama, Trump, and Mamdani, all of them, they focus on the rally. And even though Mamdani didn't necessarily have the rally, but he did these walks. And people went out to walk with him and stuff like that. And he did have rallies too. But I remember Obama, his rallies were huge. Trump's rallies were huge. Little communities formed there. And people got accustomed to this idea of, even whoever was behind the Trump campaign, got the Trump trains going, like trucks, just driving through the streets. But the point is, get out of your house, because that's the number one factor that's going to stop people from voting. How many people care, but just they don't vote? Because that candidate didn't get them accustomed to moving. So for this local one of my analysis of it was that the commercials, got your attention, but rallies are more important for the local, because the local, you're hardly going to convince new people. You're going to get people who are already in your tribe. You just need to tap into them and energize them and excite them and get them accustomed to moving their bodies for you, like going to a rally, going to a whatever, and then eventually going to the polling stations.
Also, I mean, speaking to folks that never were spoken to before, you got to remember most candidates and elected officials, when they're campaigning, they're targeting high propensity voters, folks that vote all the time. Then folks in the middle, but the folks that never vote, no one reaches out to them.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first ran for office, I went into the hood,
mm-hmm.
and they were kind of shocked, like, wait, we've never had any candidate come here, like,
mm-hmm.
And I said,
which candidate was up?
No, when I first ran for office,
yourself.
And then
Nice.
folks were like, they were surprised that I was, in the inner city campaigning. They're like, folks never come out here because they're low propensity voters. They don't vote much, right? But you know what? It's for us, if we speak to folks, like, there's a lot of Muslims that don't vote because no one ever engaged them, and it's just a cycle. It's just, you don't vote, so no one's going to reach out to you, no one's going to call you, no one's going to send you mail to the house. But all of a sudden now we're like, no, we are going to go target people of color, the Muslim community, minorities, and we're going to tell them why this race is so important and that you have power. And we show them that, hey, like, look at these races. We give them examples of races that were won by a few hundred votes or a few dozen votes, right, at all levels. So once they see that narrative, they're like, you know what, my vote will make a difference. Wow. And no one's ever spoken to me before. Wow, this candidate is pretty amazing. Let's support that, and they had the courtesy to come out and talk to us, spend time and telling us about this race. So, and also as a community, we need more folks to run for school board. We need more folks to run for local government, and make a difference in their local community.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
About that. What are 3 things Kalimuk says average Muslim candidate should do to make an effective difference on the political outcome?
What are the issues that they're going to take on? right? So depending on what level they're going to run, if they're going to run for, for local politics, right? People care about affordable housing, the potholes in the streets, the parks. So see what the issue is. Like, so when I ran, there was an issue. There was a half-built high school that just sat there for years. There was folks wanted one of the schools to expand to, to 8th grade. So I listened to the community. I was forced to run for office. I actually didn't want to run for office, and I was pressured to run, but I heard, the complaints of the community, and I said, okay, that's my platform. My platform is what the community wants to see changed in the district, and that was, these are the check marks that I have to check off to see, if I succeeded in what I promised the community, what I'm going to do for them. And so when people run for office and deliver on what they promised, then maybe they deserve to run for higher office. Like some folks come out of nowhere and run for Congress.
You going for Congress?
No.
Why not?
For me, I've been involved, I've been elected for over a decade, and I've been pushed to run for higher office. I said no, because for me, I ran a youth leadership program at the state capitol, and I was like, instead of me running for higher office, because it takes a lot of time, I was like, I'm going to get, 25 or to 50 young folks from our community to run for office in the future out of this program.
Yeah.
And we did. We had folks ran and won their seats, folks at staffers at different levels. So for me, everyone has their calling. And for me, it's not to run for higher office. It's just to build power for our community.
And what does the average community member do besides casting his ballot once every 2 years or whatever?
Engaging that elected official now. Petitions. When there's a petition, CAIR sends out an action alert to make sure that they fill it out religiously, because the elected officials they take a tally of every phone call that comes in, every email.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah. And then so all of a sudden their staffer says, you got 1,000 emails for this issue, while the opposition sent in 50. Right.
Yeah.
They do take a tally. It's the
So
ones
gotta
that
be
care.
squeaky wheel.
The ones that care, will pay attention to this stuff. Other ones that are very ideological and just, pro-Israel no matter what, they're not going to, they won't pay attention. You just got to vote them out of office.
Do you think that Muslims should be generally in one party, or should they be unpredictable?
This is the challenging question. Before 9/11, you had a decent, sizable Republican base in the Muslim community. Aside from the African American Muslim community was primarily Democrat. The immigrant community at that time, you had a lot of Republicans. But then post 9/11, you saw a major shift where the majority are Democrats. Even the Republican registered Muslims would still vote Democrat, right? So for us, we don't want to be taken granted by anyone, right? And you see communities out there, they're taken for granted. They're just, these folks are going to vote for us no matter what. We can't do that. We can't play that game. We got to make sure everyone wants to fight for our community, because we are the margin of victory. We have the numbers, and if folks vote, they're going to see, we have a lot of power at all levels. There's battleground states, but there's also swing districts all around the country.
What are some of the biggest battleground states that Muslims can swing votes in?
Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia.
Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
I know that.
And we looked at the numbers. We looked at the numbers. We looked at the uncommitted numbers during 2024.
Bring out how do we vote? Right? Valentine. Yeah.
And look, for me, you look at Pennsylvania, you look at Maryland, you look at New Jersey, just those states, Maryland is not a battleground state, but if you look at the numbers of Muslims, the concentration of Muslims, they are the margin of victory in so many races if they just turn out. So our mission is simple: just mobilize, educate Muslim voters.
Okay. And all this you think is for the congressional elections?
No, all levels. If you can never, folks always cared about the federal and foreign policy. I just tell them, you can't change foreign policy if you can't change your local policy.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's important that people, because local politics affects your lives. You elect good folks. Look at what Mamdani's doing. In a short period of time, universal child care, the buses are running more efficient. He's doing policies that are changing people's lives, and people that were detractors all of a sudden saying, wow, this guy's good. This guy's delivering, and he's delivering quick. He balanced the budget within 100 days. These are things that, even fiscal conservatives will be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so it's really important that people, be prepared, and be ready and build a team around you that's going to help you succeed, right, when you run for office.
Someone's asking about Florida's gold tender law. What do you comments on that?
I don't know. I haven't followed.
So you can now pay, it's legal tender to pay in gold and silver in Florida.
That's great.
So I mean, you have a debt, you have a house, and you go and pay the bank with gold bars, or the owner of the house with gold bars, he has to accept it. That's the idea here. Florida officially recognizes specific gold and silver coins. Maybe the Murabituna from Norwich should move here.
Dinar standard.
As legal tender for payment of debts. Legal tender means if I pay you with this, you have to accept it. For example, if I come to you with a bushel of corn, you don't have to accept that. But if I come to you with a little silver coin, you pay us in rent with silver and gold coins. Under legislation signed by Governor Dissonance, qualifying precious metals with a defined purity of 99.5% for gold and 99.9% for silver, stamped with their weight, purity, and origin, and they're exempt from state sales tax. So basically, the brother was asking if you had any opinion on that, but maybe that's.
I mean, this is as a Muslim, of course. The gold dinar. Let's bring it back.
Dinar,
it's there's paying in assets.
Golddinar.com. See how much it costs. I guarantee you, the Norwich Murabitun have it. Golddinar.com, because they're the gold dinar was Sheikh Abdul Qadir's, not al-Jilani, the modern Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Murabits.
Yeah.
He's the one. Go to golddinar.com as a website, see if it's see if it exists, because that's what they were actually all about, the gold dinar.
And look, this Muslim society, so you look at other countries, Turkey, others, they gold, it's and look at their $1 is 45 liras, but there's folks that were under their mattresses, it's gold, they just they just buy gold every opportunity they get, and it's anti-inflationary. And so this is interesting what's happening in Florida, and if it's going to spread to other states as well. And not a big issue that we're focusing on, but interesting. And I know some community members they care about this issue.
Ian Dallas was that's his original name, but he went by Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Murabits, and his biggest thing was it's all about economics and it's all about the currency. And so he had a big push for the gold dinar. So if you get your gold dinar licensed in Florida, stamped, probably the approval thing for say like 10 years, but you can start going around buying and selling with gold dinars now in Florida. Okay. All right, let's now start taking general Q&A for myself and for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then we'll wrap up. All right, who has any, gentlemen? First, you get first dibs. Comments or questions? What's your major, by the way? What year are you in? Sophomore? Good. Yeah, Salman, do we have any announcements that we have to make? Is it up yet? Later. Okay, good. So we'll make sure to do that tomorrow with Sheikh. Tomorrow's stream will be run with Sheikh John Starling. The premise of Safina Society is that the best way to learn your deen is through the four madhabs of fiqh and the madhabs of aqidah of the Hanabila, that are the Hanabila along the curriculum of Nihayat al-Mubtadi'een, Qala'id al-Aqiyan, Ghunyat al-Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, because Athari school has many different strands too. It's not just one strand. Then you have the Ash'ari school, according to Ghazali and Juwayni and Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari and Abu Bakr al-Baqillani, the early ones. And then you have the Maturidi school, of course. The best way to get close to your Lord is to study Aqidah through these three schools, any one of them, and to study fiqh according to the dominant opinions of the four madhabs, and to study tasawwuf according to Imam al-Ghazali, Abu al-Hasan al-Shadhili, طريقة al-Ba'alawi, Habib Omar bin Salim bin Hafid. And we want to promote all the adhkar, the salawat and the adhkar and the prayers written by all the big awliya. Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, Abu al-Hasan al-Shadili, Salat al-Taj, which is written by one of the Ba'alawi shuyukh. And all these great awliya Allah from all the Sunni turuq. And we worship Allah by reciting those dhikrs. That's our premise. And Sheikh John Starling is going to be representing. Inshallah, he's going to be hosting tomorrow, talking about Hanbali fiqh, Hanbali aqidah. All right, so here's a question for you. It's about the quid pro quo, which is essentially we've been. This is what we've been talking about, and that is it possible? How do you navigate a platform while not falling into beliefs antithetical to our beliefs? This is by Sawan 6728.
I think the way the Muslims are engaging in politics, and I would say the majority of them, there's specific issue areas that they're taking on, and they're focusing on those areas, whether it's immigration, right, civil rights, freedom of speech, and so they're focusing on that. And they're not getting involved in say controversial issues. They're saying that our community, is center left, center right, and these are the issues that we want, where we can make a difference in. And these are also progressive issues, right? So we work with our progressive allies to fight for those issues. And the majority of the Muslim community, whether they're conservative or liberal, these are issues that kind of unite everyone. And I think that's why CAIR has had its success over the years, because it's very focused on their issues.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get involved in these other issues that will create controversy. And I think that's helped the organization. And also, you go to CAIR banquet, you see very secular Muslims and very religious Muslims. You see the Imams, and you see, so because standing up for our civil liberties and our freedom to worship, I think are easy to unite our community. The secular Muslim doesn't want his kids to go through Islamophobia, and hate. And so things are changing. And as people see that we can make a difference, more people are getting involved on these issues.
You know what I would love to see in New Jersey? The voucher law. Why should I pay taxes for public schools when my kids don't use them? And I pay double. I'm paying taxes for that, and I'm paying private school tuition. What makes sense is that don't charge me that. Send the money over. $10,000 is average tuition, right? What do you think of, if people don't know what I'm talking about, the voucher law is essentially saying you send your kids to private school. You are also getting taxed for the public school system. Okay. Where is it in any law that I should pay for other people's kids if I don't use the service? Okay. They already give you the bus discount. Ooh, big whoopty, $55 a year for the bus discount, right? But why would I? Because that goes to a private company anyway. That's why they give you the discount, give you the money back. Why can't? So the voucher system makes sense. And in Texas, they're applying it for all the Christian schools. The Muslims are trying to get involved in that, and they won the case. But the idea is that my tax money shouldn't go there, and instead should go to where my school is. So that saves me $10,000 a year per kid. What do you think about that?
Well, the challenge, and what folks on the left say, is that we need to fix public schools. We got to fix the existing problem, and if we fix it, then people, who can't, a lot of people can't afford to go to private schools, and so they want to fix public education. And folks on the left are afraid that when you go towards this route, you're going to take away the resources needed, which are much needed right now for public education, and send them over to private schools. And the challenge is, Proposition 13, like in California, really, really hurt education in California in 1979, the way the taxes were applied. And so based upon the zip code you live in, whether you're going to get a good or you're going to get a great education with resources, field trips, and all this, or you're going to struggle. I mean, as a school board member, we had you have negotiations, and it's looking at budgets and what are you going to cut here, what are you going to cut there. And, you know, and I made it known to say in my public comments, it's like, you know, we are arguing over a few million here. We're sending billions of dollars
That's true.
for these wars.
That's true.
And so it hurts. It's just like, and we're making these decisions that are impacting the lives of so many families. And so it's not black and white. For some, it's like, yeah, hey, I want to send my kids to Islamic school. I want to get this. I want to get this voucher. But then it's like, okay, will it also help? How can we also help solve the issue of public education in America, which is not getting the resources it needs, and there's a lot of cuts happening all over the place.
But
And
like
so,
you said, it should come from the money that's not benefiting the people. Like isn't it true? Because this is connected to it. Isn't it true that local authorities, local governments do send money overseas? Because I saw recently a video about this, that local governments, townships, actually do send money overseas.
well, they're investing in bonds. For example, the big issue with Israeli bonds. Many of these counties and states are putting money in these Israeli bonds,
Yeah.
right? And that's been a strategy by, you know, the pro-Israel forces, is to kind of connect all levels with Israel, and it's financial. But even though, look, since this war, what's happening with the bonds and their ratings, and so now you're seeing a big push here in New Jersey and many other parts of the country where there's been successes of folks divesting from Israel, and so that's where the way they're sending their money overseas. And so I think that's a battle that our community has to take on, and we are winning. We have to take it at a national level in all these different states, and let folks know, like, we should not support a country with such blatant human rights abuses.
Yeah.
And also, you know, it also has spiritual consequences. I remember telling, you know, some evangelical folks that how can you, in the Black community, right? It's like, how can you expect folks to be just here when they are justifying oppression elsewhere, right? And so, and I think a lot of them are having to deal with this. They're having, and this genocide really opened up a lot of folks' eyes, and some folks had a spiritual crisis. Like, wait a minute, how can we stand with this country that's doing all this? And so there's been a reckoning. There's been a spiritual reckoning here in this country, where you saw, you know, after the genocide, you saw over 100 major Black pastors put out a full page ad in the New York Times condemning the genocide. I mean, you know, people are saying, not in our name. Yeah. So I think folks are waking up and realizing that it's all connected. It's all connected. What happens there is impacting what's happening here.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point that you make, that education's a public good. Public schools got to be fixed. The opposite side will say, yeah, I agree with that, but what is the moral or legal argument that I have to pay for it? How do you answer that?
Look, when it comes to the issue of vouchers, that's not an issue, you know, we've taken on. I'm from California, like the school board member. That's not an issue we're going to deal with. Also, as an organization, is not an issue that we're dealing with. You know, if it becomes a major national issue, and you know, and the community is going to have to take a position, that's a different story. You know, we'll figure out how to address it then. But we're not taking issue on. But in Texas, where they have the law and they're excluding the Muslim community, yeah, that's a legal battle that the community has taken on. And
is it over? Did they win it or lose
I
it?
don't know. I don't know, but I'm they will win. I mean, this is you know, this
it's
is
a clear
case. And so a lot of times, look, these elected officials are like Abbott or DeSantis. They're preparing for the 2028 presidential election. So
they're hacking away at nothing. They're losing all the cases.
Yeah,
they're just hacking away for it.
And they think that by being more Islamophobic,
yeah,
it's gonna help them with their base. But they realizing it's a losing strategy. We thank them. I mean, we thank them as a community, because they are getting our community to become more politically engaged than ever.
I love it.
Like, I'm just like, hey, thank you, Amy Mack. Thank you, Abbott.
They're failing the reverse psychology thing. They're totally failing. Yeah. Like, they're really not that bright. Yeah. They're totally failing the reverse psychology thing. Just the stuff we talked about earlier. You keep banging away and hacking away at a community, you make it stronger. Yeah. Can I ask you about Thomas Massie? What's his career going to look like in the future, do you think, in your perspective?
Look, he's still pretty popular in many circles, and I think he'll figure out which when to run again.
And for what?
Who knows? I mean, but a lot of folks, because of his stances against Israel and calling it out, you know, folks on the right and the left have become fans of his. I think everyone's waiting to see what him and MTG are going to do, right? I think 2028 it's gonna be interesting to see, is, you know, one of them going to run for president? You know,
they could go together.
you know,
I mean, they would have a massive fan base. They already have a massive fan base.
you know, they do, but it's the money. I mean, you saw what the money did in his race. I mean, they spent over $30 million, and Miriam Adelson, the same, you know, the same forces that got Trump elected, went all out. The pro-Israel camp spent a lot of money. They wanted to send a message to Republicans,
Which they did for sure.
and they did. But you know what? As the community recognizes that, you know, we got to analyze the numbers. Like, how many did he win by, and how many people, like, you know, how many Muslim Republicans didn't vote in that primary, right? So this is information that we have to look and analyze to show not just the Muslims, but folks in his district.
Yeah,
you know, they didn't show up, right? They didn't show up, and they just, you know, so money, unfortunately, no matter how popular a person is, if you're going to spend that much money nonstop,
how much are they going to spend if they spend 25 million on the one out of 435 seats for Congress? If he goes for president, how much are they going to use? But then maybe again, that's a great strategy, because you're just draining the resources.
Well, now, you know, they're spending money on local, state, and federal, which before, you know, the bulk of the money was it was all federal, right? AIPAC is just federal. But now you're seeing them have to get involved at races all around the country, because the community is getting involved, right? The American Muslim community and progressive allies are like are forming this movement that's really shaking the establishment and taking on establishment candidates, and we're seeing that more and more, and you're going to see more victories in the next few years, and the tide is turning. It's just, the question is, will the community help speed it up?
Can I ask you about your analysis of Muslim politicians out there who got elected? Who are you most proud of and impressed with, and what things would you say are better off adjusted or fixed or corrected, or were blunders or mistakes?
You know, look, I mean, I'm very excited about Dr. Adam Hamawy, because and I'm excited about this district and New Jersey in general. The Muslim community here is just mobilized, very active, leaders with a vision, mosque leaders, the Imams, and so they're going to give him the support he needs to really push the envelope, and you saw in his speech yesterday, you're getting a glimpse of what he's about. And this person is going to be a fighter in Congress, right? And he's going to get more support from his fellow Americans, and I think this is going to send a message all around the country that with the American Muslim community and its allies coming together, supporting bold candidates like this, the tide, we're just trying to speed it up. Yeah, that's all we're doing right now. Is just we're trying to speed up. So really excited about him. There's other younger candidates all around the country running. You know, at the end of the day, you know, when you engage the Muslim community and you raise money in the Muslim community, you know, the hope is that they stay close to the Muslim community after they win. I'm not concerned about Dr. Adam Hamawy. He's rooted in the community, right? Other folks, maybe not as much. And the hope is that the Muslim community is also very welcoming to them, doesn't judge them. Some folks didn't grow up. I mean, there's some elected officials, Muslim elected officials, didn't really even grow up around the Muslim community. Some of them were in foster care. Some of them had really challenging upbringings. And we should show grace and mercy and support them in their journey and be there to support them. And we just, you know, so we shouldn't judge all of that. We shouldn't judge them. We just have to engage them, and we have to engage them from bring them into the masajid, bring them into your homes, and be there for them. And we do see that. We do see that, but we do see where some folks are judging folks, and they don't know that person actually didn't really grow up around the community. And so support them in their journey. Be there for them.
Here's a question for you. Does the candidate that Muslims support have to be Muslim, or can they just simply have similar?
The majority of the candidates that we support are not Muslim. And we actually, if we support like Dr. Adam Hamawy or Junaid Ahmed in Illinois or Nida Alam in North Carolina, we made it a point to say that we are not supporting them because they're Muslim. It's being Muslim is a plus. Of course, everyone wants representation from their community. No, they are viable candidates. Nida was a county commissioner. Junaid Ahmed ran before for office, and he had all the major endorsements, right? So these are folks. So no longer are the days where we support someone for, oh, they, like I said, they came to the Mejia, said salam alaikum. It's like, oh, this is the one we're going to support. We look at, okay, how much money did they raise? How much cash on hand? How many? Who's endorsed them? Do they have labor support? Do they have the support needed to win? Are they viable candidates?
Viability.
What about polling?
Yeah.
Oh, viability is important. Polling. Look, 2024 was interesting year where, yes, to send a message to the establishment, it was like, you know what? No, we're not going to endorse you. And we'll endorse someone. Yeah, he's not going to win. They're not going to win, but we're going to support them at a principle. So CAIR Action in 2024, 56% of the candidates that we endorsed won because there was a red line. Gaza was a red line. Then 2025, we endorsed less, but we had a 76% win ratio.
Amazing.
Because and then
Higher standard.
the higher standard. So now we're like, okay, I mean, I've talked to folks from different parties and I've told them, you know, why you're running. Said, oh, I'm running to win. I was like, look, you're running in a campaign that the Democrat lost by 100,000 votes. So like we don't have infinite resources. We can't just go get involved in every campaign.
Of course.
So you got to be a viable candidate. And somebody says, well, look at Mamdani, 1%. I was like, you know, Mamdani, this was very
establishment.
It was very different. He was an assembly member who was, you know, and then also they have ranked choice voting in New York, right? And so you saw him and Brad Landers coming out saying, we're going to support each other, vote for one or two. I mean, they had an amazing strategy. And he's once in a century politician. I mean, the guy, you know, people, majority love him, right? They you know, just the way he connects with the average person out there, what he represents, what he stands for. He would
have run for president if he could.
If he was born here. And I think that's what maybe comforted them a little bit, is like, oh, you know, thank God he's not born in this country.
Okay, I have a question for you. Can you ever see a world in which the Muslim voting bloc would support a non-Muslim who has better policy, more viability, more authenticity than a Muslim who they see to not have the policies that they
absolutely? We've done that. We've done that. And I've done yelled at. Yeah, I mean, I won't say their name, but you know, one person called yelling at me saying, you know, how could you not endorse me? You know, I'm Muslim and you're a Muslim. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean we're gonna support. We're gonna endorse you. You're running against an ally who stood against the genocide, who stood for ceasefire, stands for the civil rights of the community. And, you know, and he won, you know, he won by like 50%. Like, you know, I mean, so like, we're not going to go and endorse someone just because he's from our community. You have to be a viable candidate. And also, what if someone just runs and we had an ally in there that has been there for us for years, and a Muslim comes out of nowhere and runs? And sometimes they actually will push Muslims. And we've seen it. We've seen it in California years ago, where they ran a Muslim to try to take away votes from an allied pro-Palestinian member of Congress.
Makes sense.
Pete Stark.
Yep.
And so they'll deploy this strategy. And unfortunately, some in our community just see the Muslim name and they fall for it. We're like, no. So now that's why it's important for organizations that do endorsements like, you know, CAIR Action, that, you know, that folks realize there's a lot of work being put into this. And it's not just CAIR Action staff deciding who to endorse. No. There's a lot of research, there's questionnaires being sent out, and also talking to the local leaders, the local advisory boards, local politicals who you know, been involved in politics. You reach out to them, you do shura, consultation, and you try to get consensus. And most of these endorsements are done through consensus. And sometimes we have a challenge where you have, you know, like in California, you might have Northern California versus Southern California, right? At the end of the day, we want to keep the unity of the community. So there's different ways to do that. Sometimes dual endorsement, because sometimes two allies are running, right? So sometimes dual endorsement. Sometimes you do a candidate who's good on everything, but not quite there on some issues.
But dual endorsement can't be good. You're splitting your energy.
Well, you know, look, California is a top two state where you know, so it's a little different than other places. But yeah, in other places we don't do, we rarely do it. But we also do preferred and endorsed. So we're like, hey, this person's amazing on these issues, we'll endorse them. Other ones, they're not quite there yet, we'll prefer them, right? So it's like almost there. It's like sometimes like the lesser of two evils. We'll put a, you know, prefer. So send them a message that, hey, you still have to work harder to get our community support.
New Jersey District 12, which we're just witnessing here, should really always control that seat. The Muslims, I mean, should control that seat. How many seats could you say can you say that for across the nation? Like maybe Michigan, probably 1 or 2 seats in Michigan, maybe 1 or 2 seats in Dallas.
You're talking about a Muslim candidate or the Muslims being?
No, the Muslims should get their way every time.
Oh, dozens of House seats. I'll tell you right now, because if you look at this district, New Jersey 12, about 23,000 registered Muslim voters.
Yeah.
On average, we look at a race. We say, okay, how, we look at the different demographics, not just Muslim, but if we look at Muslim, okay, this district 13,000 here, another one 16,000, another one 23,000, and that also helps us to see, like, okay, can we be the margin of victory?
Yeah.
Do we have the numbers? And also, what is the turnout in that district in previous elections? Right. In some communities, it's the leadership. They have been pushing civic engagement for a long time, so you see a higher turnout. Other communities, it's very low. And then we're like, okay, do we have enough resources to go in there and to get out the vote, right? And so we have to be realistic. We I wish we had more resources to be able to take on so many races. But I'll tell you one thing. I think what New Jersey 12 has shown us is that in this campaign, the reliance was on volunteers, and it was from folks around the country, folks from Illinois. The Justice Coalition, other allies around the country, getting volunteer phone bankers to come in and do phone banks. We hit 128,000 phone calls.
Wow.
One list was 3 passes, and this was like a general list of like Black, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander, young voters, Muslims. 3 passes there. Then another list for the Muslim, 5 passes.
What does that mean?
So calling through a list, just keep calling through a list, because not everyone's going to pick up.
That means you called 5 times.
If 5 passes through a particular list, and then dropping voicemails, right? So dropping an automated voicemail into their mailbox saying, hey, getting an influencer, someone respected in the community, like such as Linda Sarsour, to put out a voicemail saying, hey, get out the vote. Your vote matters. Your vote counts. We're going to, with your vote, we're going to win this campaign. Election, today's election day, polls close at 8 p.m. Get out there. And I'll tell you, when you talk to the community members, a lot of folks, say, oh, thank you for the reminder. Election coming up, but everyone gets busy in their lives, right? And so and also for us, the strategy is to get folks to vote by mail, because most states, when you register to vote by mail, they're sending you text messages, email reminders. So that really helps us,
How does that govern? I mean, it seems like it's so easy to cheat.
No, I mean, it's, and there's protections in place. The local county elections office, they do their due diligence, and there's always witnesses. I mean, there's, the political system here, because we've had, like when I ran, people are counting. You can have counsel there, you can have witnesses there. Everything's done in a very transparent manner, because if folks lose trust in the electoral system, then it's over. It's over. But if you look at the county officials around the country, they work really hard to make sure that it's as transparent, so people can still have trust in the system, and everyone can see that, right? And so, are there things that happen? I'm sure in every country there's, they found ballots one time. There were ballots that were thrown in the garbage, right?
Your organization is able to endorse candidates, right?
Yes, there's a 501c4. So CAIR Action is a 501c4 that
CAIR Action. And if go to the website, please. So someone here is asking, Saad is saying, hey, we don't know a lot. We'll just make taqleed.
Yeah.
And your website, CAIR Action, wherever there's elections, you put who you endorse.
No, not everywhere.
Somebody.
Not everywhere. So if you go to the website and you click on the endorsement section, you'll see many states.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to New Jersey and you'll see some races. California, because a lot of us are based in California, you'll see a lot more races.
Go to the endorsement page.
Yeah. So go to California, for example, you get an idea of how many, you click on the guide and you see dozens of elected officials in every region that are endorsed. Because now we're doing it nationally. In the past, we were just doing it in California. We do it almost every county had endorsement guide. So folks were waiting for that every election cycle, primary election, general election. They just know that it's going to come out. Now we're doing it at a national level. We're still, as we get more resources, we can tackle on more states, more localities, more counties. And we're also hiring advocacy and policy coordinators on the ground in different states.
Are you the Since you're the ED here, I guess you are the final sign off on who to endorse. So you're the mufti, right? On this subject?
No, actually, we have a team, Safina Osman, who's a legend, mashallah, out of California. She heads this project out, and she'll flag things for me if there's a controversy, if there's an issue. Sometimes we'll have to have an emergency meeting with that community, or leaders, like for example, statewide in California, to address endorsements, and we do it through shura. So if I have to get involved and say, listen, for the sake of unity, we're not going to do an endorsement. Like, we're just not going to do it. We don't want fitna. We just keep the unity. That's it. Let's just not do it. But alhamdulillah, most of the time it's having hard discussion, difficult discussions, but getting to a place where when, mashallah, a lot of wise people come together and address endorsements, our community has done well. Now, there's some folks that say, well, why didn't you endorse this person? Why, the team has done their due diligence, and it's ijtihad, political ijtihad. It's never, look, is it perfect? No, but there's things that Samina and the team see that others don't see. Samina, mashallah, she knows so many elected officials herself that they have this personal connection. They know that there was one candidate in California that folks said, oh, he's pro-Israel, and how could you support him? But he has worked really hard over the years to change. He hired a Palestinian in his office. He goes to Palestine Day. He'll come visit the mosque. Like, look, God knows what's in the hearts, but he has done these actions to really show the community that, hey, like, I'm trying to fight for you. I'm learning, I'm evolving. So for us, we have to show grace at times and support them in their journey, and make them allies, make them bigger allies.
Is there, I support your work and what you're doing. Is there something on this stream that's going to get you in trouble with CAIR Action and with your people? So we should.
Man, I think you get everyone in trouble, Chef Shadee. But mashallah,
I like to be consistent.
SubhanAllah, like, look, this, this open discussion about what's happening, it has to be had. And I think we are having this conversation around the country. I mean, I'm traveling around the country, meeting with leaders, masjid leaders, the youth, and these are finally, like, the community's now starting to address these issues. And what is our political ideology as a community? What are our goals as living here in this country? And I think that hasn't been solidified yet. There's no what is the future of the American Muslim community look like in the U.S., because we are so detached from the Muslim world. Our community is different than, say, the British Muslim community or the European Muslim community. We're so far away from scholarship, and post 9/11, where they closed the gates, where before you had more scholars. So come visit the U.S., and everything has its pros and cons, of course. But we as a community, we need to start having these discussions of where we stand and what our faith-based worldview. How does it play out in all of this? And I, like I mentioned earlier about Egypt. Egypt, you had many thinkers that came out of Egypt, but we need our religious leaders to start addressing and they're starting to. All right, you're seeing their stance. You saw the zakat fatwa, and you saw the controversial pros and the cons and the dissent and all that. But these people are addressing these issues, and the goal is we address these with respect. We are going to differ. We're going to differ on issues, but we have to have the discussion, and we have to unite our community. We got to unite our hearts. So how, like, when we had our moment for dua, for prayer, supplication, I just kept making dua that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts and give us a vision, a clear vision for our leadership, that they can just come together for the greater good.
I mean, I think we need I've been saying for a long time, you need a political class. Meaning people who are specialists in the field. Like you said, your colleague, she knows the ins and outs more than what's only seen on the outside. You need a political class. You need the platform, them to be the ones speaking up, studying this thing. It takes a study on who's better for the community. And like you said, it's an ijtihad. Ijtihad requires a lot of judgment calls and experience. So I've been saying for a long time, you need a political class. It shouldn't just be a politician comes into the masjid, people who are not trained in this, they don't pay attention in it. And that political class has to be in conversation with the meaning of what a Muslim is, the leadership of what Islam is, which are the shuyukh. They just have to be in conversation, because a lot, you can't say all, but a lot of the base, they do care about Islam.
Yeah.
I mean, not every Muslim voter out there actually cares about the Sharia. They almost have an identitarian view. Like, I don't want Islamophobia. I don't want to be attacked. It's almost like an identity view. I don't know what the percentage is. Other people do care about Islam. So there's got to be a conversation with them, which is why I wanted to sort of respect your position here. We could take this down if it's going to hurt you, but I wanted to respect that. Another question came in that, what is you said the person wanted the summary of your standards, viability, not pro-Israel or pro-Palestine.
I mean, that's a major issue.
That's a red line.
That's a red line.
Viability. What else are the shuruts?
We look at them, how much have they raised at
That's
that point?
part of viability.
We look at another thing is the endorsements is key.
Yeah.
Endorsements will say a lot about you, right? The labor unions that support you, who out there, the leaders out in the community that have endorsed you. So we do look at that. Also, polling helps us, right? If there's polling on a particular race, it doesn't mean that they still can't win. We've had races, right, where it's like, okay, you know what? We looked at the numbers. We're like, no. If we there's a super PAC that comes in, or multiple super PACs that come in, this is a winnable race, right? You can look at the demographics of that community, and look at the previous turnout. So there's a lot that goes into this analysis, but experts are doing it. So it's no longer emotional decisions like, hey, we like this person, they're really down with us, let's just go. It's like, no, but this person has no chance. Yeah. And people say, like, that the one Muslim that called me one time, he says, I said, you have no viability, you have no chance. He's like, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make me win? I was like, brother, you're running as a no party preference in a democratic district. Like, it's not rocket science. Yeah, what in our epistemology and theology we would say, yes, by hukum shari, by God's law, by God's power, you can win. But by hukum adi, by cause and effect that we know, you can't win. So that's, a lot of people confuse those two. And when they don't want to prepare, they don't want to think, they don't want to study, they don't want to do the due diligence, they'll go to, yes, God has the power to do so. Yes, that's true. He also has the power to make fire cool me off rather than burn me. But we have to apply hukum adi, which is the day-to-day asbab that Allah put in place. There are things that are impossible, right? Although it's possible for God to do, but in our world that we live in, by hukum adi, it's impossible. So we would say mustahil adatan. Okay. Jaiz shar'an, by Allah's power, or aqlan, by God's power, he can do it. But by actual asbab that Allah created, we say it's impossible. So that's just a little side point on theology and epistemology. I just, I want to say that the imams and the tulab ilm out there, they're going to play a major role in this movement. Yeah. Like, we are not going to have political power in this country without the imams and the tulab ilm, people that are rooted in the community, from the barakah, from the guidance, right? Yeah. And also the community listens to them. So, I mean, Black pastors have tremendous influence in the political world. Yeah. Like, you're going to run for office, you're going to go to those churches and you're going to try to speak, connect with them, speak with their congregants. We have the imams who, and they say, hey, it's wajib to vote. It's really important. Like, you have to vote for these reasons. You have to be involved in your local community. People are going to listen to them.
It's amazing you say that, because only like 10 years ago, there was a group of people, and maybe the majority, who wanted to ice out imams because the many imams would speak out against certain decisions that they're making and say, like, bro, this is like clear-cut haram, you can't go here. So they wanted to ice them out, but it seems like that didn't work, because the majority of people, voters, community members, do care about Islam. They want at least the fundamentals of Islam in their lives. They don't want to contradict the Quran on major things, right? And so it's amazing to hear you say that, and that you're the ED of CAIR. So
CAIR Action.
CAIR Action, right? But that's great, and I mean, that's why having you on here is important.
And we've been training imams and masjid leaders all around the country. And before any major race, we go in and talk to them what they can and cannot do. We talk about the legal aspects and the religious aspects, and we're working with some of the imams for them to create a training. We're working with them to create a training, and it's train the trainers training for the imams. So they're going to go around training other imams about what they can kind of do, what's the best practice for civic engagement.
What are some examples?
So the imam can push civic engagement from the pulpit, right? They can make announcements.
Are you talking about legal? Yeah.
Legally, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, legal. So we explain to them just practical advices of what the power that they have, right? How much power they have in the community on the political front. Because a lot of folks, look, some of the immigrant imams, they don't realize how powerful they are. We tell them, I said, look at any candidate, go to their website and look at the endorsements. Look how many pastors have endorsed these candidates. And those pastors,
that's illegal.
That's legal. No, it's legal, because if you look at any endorsement page, they'll say titles for identification purposes only. They'll actually sometimes even put the church, pastor this from this church, and they'll put an asterisk and put for identification purposes only. So now they got 2,000 congregants at that church. Like, oh man, our pastor's supporting this.
So
now,
he's personally endorsing someone.
Now, what we're doing is we're letting them know that you have a lot of power here. Yes, we do want folks to kind of adopt CAIR Action as the endorsement model for the community. So where it's like, say, hey, go to them. Just go to them. They've done their research. We trust them. We know them. Go to them. They've done their vetting. So we're trying to also make it easy for folks, because one of the challenges we also have is they can also split communities.
Mm-hmm.
So if they make we've seen measured leaders in their personal capacity do bad endorsements, and it's created a lot of fitna in their community, in their community because of these endorsements. So we tell them, we're here for you. Just say, hey, we trust them. Just, they've done their research. Go to them, see who they've endorsed. Another thing.
Sorry to cut you off. I don't. But interestingly, when you mentioned that, what did you think? I don't know if you can talk about this, but in Michigan, when they endorsed Trump, and he literally came in, and they endorsed Trump, and that outraged a lot of people. I thought that wasn't the brightest thing in the world. What did you think about that?
It was interesting. I went out there and I met with some of those leaders, and I just told them, I said, look, you're going to own this. I told them, you're going to have to own this, because look, there's people that regret what happened in 2000 when they supported Bush. And we know the history of that. I mean, Bush engaged them, made promises to protect civil liberties, stopping the roving wiretaps. And it worked for some folks. And Democrats refused to meet with the Muslim leadership in 2000. And I just said, just remember that, because there's a lot of people, they look back and they have regret, because you saw millions killed throughout the Muslim world, war in Iraq, Afghanistan. So you have to be very careful what you're doing. You got to be calculated. And also, what are you asking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you asking for? And so,
why did the Democrats refuse to meet the Muslims in that?
No, look, the Muslims leadership were meeting with all campaigns, met with the Harris team, but some folks just didn't. What we said was that have a clear policy platform, come out publicly with it, and then our community will reconsider our decisions. We didn't say, oh, if you do this, we're going to come and support you. No, you have to have some self-respect after seeing a genocide, that we're not going to just hand out an endorsement. The community or national leaders we're meeting on a weekly basis. Yeah, it was game theory involved. I mean, it was intense. It was an intense year, right? Because we knew that the weight of this decision had ramifications for America, for our community, for the world. And so, but we came out with a statement where we're going to support ceasefire candidates, right? And it was a way, because if the community had went and endorsed one person, then we wouldn't be taken seriously politically. So
that's why I'm saying that you can't just be predictably on one side. And if for Basim's screen, too late now, but lift it up a little bit. Lift it and come to the right a little bit. Up to the right a little bit. Okay. We're wrapping up here, but like you said, I was saying that you can't be predictable. You have to be flexible and able to or else you have no leverage, right? The only leverage is we're either behind you or not, right?
Yeah. Look, I think the community now feels more empowered after what happened in 2024. And it wasn't just the Muslim community or the Middle Eastern community. It was, if you look at 2020 and 2024, you added about 10 million new voters and you had less people vote. The genocide had a huge impact. And we know the DNC did an autopsy, and are refusing to release that. But everyone knows Kamala Harris came out and said it. You know, that Gaza hurt them.
Killed them. What about the future? What are the next campaigns that you're working on that we could pay attention to?
Michigan and Texas. I mean, there's many other campaigns, but Michigan.
When is that?
Michigan is in August.
Primary.
It's a primary election. You have Abdul Sayed running for Senate. You have other key races.
Senate?
Yes, and that'll be the first.
Is that the first Senate race you're involved in?
No, we've been involved in other Senate races, but would be the first Muslim senator. But we're not, like I said, we're not supporting him because he's Muslim. He's brilliant. He's a Rhodes Scholar. Who's an MD who was the health director of Detroit, ran for governor before, at over 300,000 votes. The guy just he can go to a rural part of Michigan and get a standing ovation from that community.
And the viability?
He's viable. He's actually right now he's up in the polls, and they're going to spend a lot more money to try to defeat him because they know how powerful it would be for someone like him to, Muslim American, Arab American from Michigan to be in the Senate. Mm-hmm. And he's bold. He's not afraid to speak out. He's not afraid to stand up against genocide.
American priorities, I'm sure, is behind that big time.
I would think so.
That's not like private information, right? Because when they run an ad, it's going to say so.
Yeah, of course. But yeah. They're not going to announce in advance. I don't think they will announce in advance publicly where they're going to get involved, right? For strategic purposes. But I'm assuming, they've been involved in the big races. And so that they would be involved.
So that's a big one in August. Nothing in July? Or this month even?
No, another August, Cori Bush. That's another campaign that folks are working on. So right now, CAIR Action's endorsing, of course, endorses folks. But the two main, bodies right now that are delivering the victories are the Unity and Justice Fund and American Priorities.
Okay. So all of these are primaries. And then November is going to be all the elections.
So yes. And then the big one is going to be in Texas, where you have Tellerico, running against Paxton. So that's going to be a major race. And look, the Muslim community of Texas has over 350,000 registered voters. And so they can decide that election. If
you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah.
We need ESPN
CAIR Action.
Constant.
Yeah.
These are like races. We need ESPN for the simple man who's not really involved in this. Constant, nonstop.
I'll tell you right now, and that's good. Imagine DeSantis attacking CAIR, attacking EPIC, attacking the Muslim community, and all of a sudden, and Paxton himself as well, and then all of a sudden, the Muslims of Texas turn out in record numbers and decide that election. It'll change. What we'll do, it'll shake up national politics, where the Republicans will say, you know what, we messed up. We've been attacking this community. Yep. And look, it's backfiring right now. So actually, like I said, I thank them. I thank them for for what they're doing, because they are helping us mobilize our community like never before, because people are fed up.
What are the numbers looking like? The polls?
It's gonna be a tough race. I mean, I think right now Paxton's probably up, but I think with more time and if we turn out our folks, I think he can win. He can win there. And Abdul Sayed right now, he's up in the polls, and this is a winnable race. These are winnable races. And then you have other candidates. You have Donovan McKinney running for Congress there. You have Abraham Ayash running for state senate.
Where?
In Michigan. And then also the other key races in New York right now are De La Riza, Claire Valdez. You got they're running for Congress for the House, and then you have Abil Qawas running for state senate. She'd be the first Palestinian in the state senate. You have Shamsul Haq, who's running for state house, Bengali American brother, and so there's some exciting races out there. And I think folks want to get involved. They can message us. We check our messages, and they say, "Hey, we want to be involved in this. We want to be involved in these races. We want to volunteer." We got folks from New Jersey, right? Just on election day, told us, we are coming out to Michigan. We are going to come out to support the Unity and Justice Fund. We will knock on doors. We will phone bank, but we will come out there the final weekend, and we're going to bring a whole team from here, from New Jersey, out to Michigan. Because if you look at the effort just yesterday, we had over 75 phone bankers. The Unity and Justice Fund had 75 phone bankers from around the country. Most of them were here, but a lot of folks from Illinois and Massachusetts and California. And so that's how it's done. You know what? And if we had more money, we'd be able to hire more people. We'd be able to do more campaign work.
Oh, this is great. This is fun. It sounds like a fun job, to be honest with you. You're at war every day. It's a competition.
It is. And as someone from Gaza,
yeah.
Look, we stopped counting after 200 people, right? So
your family.
Yes, my family. And so for me, this is our political revenge. This is what we say is that I at least did something.
Yeah.
Because being from Gaza, you feel guilty, like you have the survivor's guilt.
Yep.
It's like ever since you were like, why am I here? And my family's living in a concentration camp. What am I going to do with my life? So it gives you meaning just to keep the fight, keep going.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get the community to join in this effort. And we're seeing a political awakening in the country. And yesterday was a sweet victory for this community. Absolutely, but for the entire community and for all Americans, because
his chances in the general are very strong.
Oh, he's
almost a shoo-in.
Oh
right?
yeah. It's a Democratic district, so yesterday was the election. A lot of these, if they're Democratic districts or Republican, that's it. They're one in the primary, and so this is not a swing district or purple district. This he's going to pull it off, and so. We're going to make sure everyone votes. We want to make sure that our community still votes in high numbers in November to give him a mandate. And yesterday was a mandate. Winning by that many votes is showing the establishment, like, you guys messed up on this one. These type of candidates, and especially from the American Muslim community, the
Texas one is going to be huge. Though.
It is.
That's going to be the
biggest
one.
That's going to be the big test.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I can keep going, but at 4 o'clock now, 4:15 almost. So we got to wrap up. But this was really good. Before today, I didn't know your position. I didn't know about your organization. I didn't know the kind of, I guess they're like a war general that you are with all these campaigns. Sounds like a lot of fun. So I want to be in touch. And whenever there's a new election coming up, I think you should come up and give us your fatwa on it, your ijtihad on it. And so to keep us informed on the subject. So I think that's going to be a good relationship in the future. Thanks for reaching out to us. I'm glad you came on. Jazakumullahu khair. And everybody pay attention to CAIR Action's website, where you could see what their decision is. And their lines of viability, pro-Palestine. Those are the main things. So check it out. Jazakumullahu khairan, everyone. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.